Am I the asshole for making my daughter go somewhere with a girl she's not friends with? My 38F daughter, Melody, is 10 years old. She goes to an after-school program, which is where she met Leah, also 10. I know Leah's mom, Daniela, somewhat well as we had older kids in class together a few years back. Melody has told me several times that Leah is too loud, doesn't understand personal space, asks rude questions, etc. I've told her they don't have to be friends, but to still be polite. Daniela later confided in me that Leah is on the spectrum, which I already suspected. Recently, the kids had a day off. Daniela called and asked if Melody wanted to go to the aquarium with her and Leah. I said sure. When I hung up and told Melody, she got upset and said she didn't want to go. I said I already told Daniela she'd go and it'd be fun. I pointed out that Leah doesn't have a ton of friends and maybe if more people took the time to know her, they'd realize she's nice. Melody grumbled but finally agreed. About a half hour after they left, I get a call from my SIL. Turns out she had taken her son to the aquarium and was leaving as Melody, Leah and Daniela walked in. Melody instantly said she wanted to leave with her aunt. My SIL didn't want to just take her. I was super embarrassed, feeling bad for Leah. I asked to speak to Melody, telling SIL to take her aside and out of earshot. I told Melody she was being extremely rude. I asked her how poor Leah felt after she went with her and instantly wanted to leave. Melody kept saying she didn't want to be there and started whining. I finally told SIL to bring her home. As rude as I found this, I realized it'd be even worse for Daniela and Leah to deal with my grumpy, whiny child. SIL dropped Melody off. I told my daughter she was very rude and it wouldn't have killed her to spend one afternoon doing something nice for someone. Melody said she doesn't want to be Leah's friend and went to her room. I called Daniela to apologize. She was gracious, but did admit Leah cried and they ended up leaving early because she wasn't having fun. She assured me that she hadn't paid yet for my daughter before this incident, so at least no money was wasted. I did Venmo her money for their passes as I felt bad they were unable to enjoy it due to Melody. When my husband found out, Tay flipped out on me, telling me I violated our child's autonomy and that it's my fault all this happened. I felt this was an extreme overreaction. Especially when he basically coddled Melody and took her to dinner just them. I feel a valuable lesson was missed yesterday. Am I the asshole? 1-1. You are the asshole. I had assumed from the title that you would be going to as a kind of mom play date, as it seems you like the mother, in which case you're there to advocate for your daughter. You failed to do that and ignored her needs. Your daughter does not like this child. Rude, invades personal space. Your child set a boundary and you didn't enforce it. Next you'll be saying the boy that's mean to her actually has a crush on her. Don't force your child to be around people that crosses boundaries with them. You are the asshole. Leah's mom asked if your daughter wanted to go with them. Your daughter didn't want to. You made her go anyway. Your husband is right. You absolutely bulldozed over your daughter's autonomy, and this whole scene is your fault. You didn't ask your daughter if she wanted to go. You didn't listen to her when she told you she didn't want to go. If you have any care to how your daughter feels about the situation, this mess would have never happened. You are the asshole. I would say yes, a valuable lesson was missed yesterday. By you. You are the asshole. So your daughter has expressed repeatedly that she doesn't want to be around a girl whose behavior makes her uncomfortable. Instead of being understanding towards your own daughter, you force your daughter to endure being around her because you think that being forced to be around her will make other kids like her? Being forced to be around someone you don't like never leads to friendship. Good on your daughter for doing what she has to enforce her boundaries. I'm glad your husband backed up your daughter. At least she has one decent parent who understands she deserves some autonomy. He did the right thing. You could learn some lessons from him. You are the asshole. I violated our child's autonomy and it's my fault all this happened. Why do you think forcing friendships on your child is okay? She has her own reasons for not wanting to be friends with Leah. Butt out. Your daughter has the right to make her own friends. Am I the asshole for asking for more money for my car? So, I, 28M, offered to sell my RAV4 that has 100,000 miles on it in January to my brother and his wife. They have a baby and a beat-up Honda Civic as well as a Scion with way too many miles on it. They shared they'd be car hunting this year. I offered to sell it to them for what Carvana offered, which was $14,500, and they agreed to it right away. The problem was that my wife and I still hadn't picked out our replacement car. So, they'd check in every week or so, but we weren't ready. In the end, we decided to hold onto the car until our trip to Disney this past week. I checked Carvana again and they offered me more. This time $16,500. I texted my brother telling him he could have it but he would need to match Carvana's new offer. He responded saying that they're not haggling and they've been putting off buying a car for months because they thought we had an agreement and were just waiting on us. They called me an asshole for stringing them along for 3 months and then asking for $2,000 more. I'm just trying to do what is right by my 2 kids and one on the way. Am I the asshole? You are the asshole. If you had checked today and it was less than when you had made the agreement, you wouldn't have said shit. You are the asshole. You gave them a price that they agreed to right away. Holding off for what? Raising it 3 months later. What the fuck, dude? Did you drive to Disney also? You are the asshole. You offered a specific price and they agreed and were waiting on you. That's a terrible thing to do to your family. You just did a trip to Disney, so it's not like that extra $2,000 was going to be the difference between your family being homeless or starving to death. So get that, trying to do right by my 2 kids, garbage outta here. If the roles had been reversed and the car lost value, would you want them to do the same? Would you want them to be, oh sorry, I know you were counting on that extra $2,000 we agreed to for your new car, but we're going back on that because Carvana would buy it for less? It would be pretty douchey, right? Go apologize and ask for a check for $14,000. Call that extra $500 off a sorry for being an awful brother tax. Up. Hey, Reddit, am I the asshole? Reddit. Yeah, man, you're definitely the asshole. Up. Wrong. Let me argue with everyone in the comments. You are the asshole. You are the asshole, you're not reliable and you're greedy. Am I the asshole for calling the cops because my neighbor said she was going to call them on me? I, 28, F. Live on one side of a duplex and share a backyard with my neighbor, 40s, F. There's no fence or divider or anything between our 2 sides of the backyard, so we just generally try to be respectful and stay in the area behind our own side of the duplex. So I have a grill on my side of the backyard and had friends over for a barbecue, and some people were also smoking weed, legal where we live. My neighbor came outside at one point and complained that our smoke was blowing into her windows, and she said that if we couldn't keep the smoke from coming into her side of the duplex then we had to stop smoking because it was technically illegal, because we're not allowed to smoke inside the units. I said that I couldn't really do anything about the wind direction and asked her if she could just close her windows for a little while and then we'd go back inside when we were done grilling. She said that it wasn't her responsibility because it was my smoke infringing on her space and not the other way around, and said that she'd hate to have to call the police but she absolutely would if I didn't knock it off, and then she went back inside. My friends and I started debating about whether we'd actually be in trouble with the cops or if my neighbor was just full of shit. I was almost 100% sure that she was full of shit, but I wanted to have a definitive answer, so I called the non-emergency line and asked if it was illegal for me to be smoking marijuana in my backyard if the smoke was going into my neighbor's windows. They asked me some questions about if we were landlord, tenant to each other, and then after I explained about it being a duplex they told me that I wasn't doing anything illegal. I told them that my neighbor said she might call them over this and they said they wouldn't dispatch officers for something like that and to not worry and enjoy my weekend. A bit after that my neighbor came back outside and told me and my friends that we were immature and scummy for preemptively calling the cops to misrepresent the situation when we knew we were in the wrong, because apparently she called the cops to complain about us and they told her that her neighbor had already called and warned them about a potential nuisance call that didn't merit police intervention. So at first I was happy to be right, but now I'm wondering if I should have just let my neighbor call and embarrass herself without me getting involved. Because I thought from the beginning that obviously the police would just tell her to stop wasting their time and I didn't really need to escalate the situation, which I think me calling the cops too definitely did. Am I the asshole for that? Not the asshole. Calling the police to ensure you're correct in your appraisal of a situation isn't a bad idea unless you're wrong, of course. Your neighbor's embarrassed. You called her on her bullshit and made sure the police knew bullshit was coming down. Making the threat to call in the first place was immature. If weed is legal, it's legal, and she can shut her windows. That aside, if you have a peaceful enjoyment clause in your lease, common in my area, she may have a complaint to file with the landlord. For my area, action on that would require escalations and notices, and several months, so it wouldn't be of huge import. She's a dick for running to the cops, but just because it isn't illegal doesn't mean you're not a dick for smoking in a spot where it's blowing into your neighbor's unit. You can't change the wind direction, but you can walk to the other side of the building to light up. Neighbor was overreacting and could have closed her windows. You guys could have smoked out near the street or sth as to be a bit more reasonable. I'll be honest, I hate the smell of weed and hate it when people smoke it near me. Nah. But you handled this wrong. Your friends were outside getting high feet away from her home. Yes, it's legal, but why not ask them to move further away from her window? Instead of the whole I can do what I want mentality. You may have legally been in the right, but it's kind of a nasshole move to tell her to suck it up. However, she didn't handle it well either. Am I the asshole for refusing to stop eating dinner in front of my fasting Muslim housemates? I live in a flat share in a large European city. There are 4 rooms in the flat and we each rent them individually from the landlord. There is a common kitchen, living room, bathrooms, etc. 2 of my housemates are Muslim and fasting for Ramadan. I'm an atheist, but I'm a firm believer of religious freedom and I don't care what anyone believes unless they are hurting others. I mostly work from home and therefore tend to eat a little earlier than others as they all have to commute home. My 2 Muslim flatmates have asked me to stop having dinner so early, because they smell it, see me eat it, and apparently it makes them even more hungry, making Ramadan harder for them. I initially said no and they then asked if I would at least eat dinner in my room so they didn't have to see it. I feel torn. On one hand, there is no massive harm to me waiting another 30–45 of a minute to have my dinner, so I could do a small thing to help them. On the other hand, it is their religious choice and I don't really see why I should change my behavior. Reddit: am I the asshole for refusing to eat later to make life easier for my Muslim housemates? Not the asshole. The literal point of Ramadan is to look temptations in the face and resist it. It's supposed to bring you closer to God, and humble the rich by making them equal with the poor. They're not supposed to ask you to change for them. Not the asshole. Ramadan is about resisting temptation, not about making other people change their lifestyle. Not the asshole. I'll probably get downvoted for this, but you're doing everything right. You should be able to eat whenever and whatever you want in your home. They even offered a compromise, but that still involves you cooking the food and them smelling it. Take them up on it. As a Muslim myself, not the asshole. Like other people have said, the point of Ramadan is to not give in to temptation. When I'm not able to fast, I still eat even if my family members are around to see it. It doesn't make me an asshole, nor should you feel like one. Heck, my dad even said just looking at food a few minutes before you can break your fast is rewarding. Rolling on the floor laughing. It sounds as though they aren't making demands, they're politely asking for a favor. You don't have to grant it, but if you can do so without any significant inconvenience, it would be a nice thing to do. And I think when you are in a shared living arrangement, it's normal to be willing to make a few compromises so everyone is comfortable. Maybe another time there will be something that you would like them to do for your benefit. Heck, wait, maybe you can enjoy a meal together. If you aren't willing to eat later, then eating in your room would be thoughtful. I'd say it's a no assholes here situation, but in your position, I'd at least try to do what they ask.